with all of this stuff?
So to start in the very beginning, I started going to farmers markets and doing any street fairs that I could afford and that I could find marketing for and that I could apply
this
for.
This was post-Haywood when you were in the Magic Bus era?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so anything, so I had a car, I would put my Easy Up 10 in there. So in the early days, I did a lot of one-day street fairs where I would show up in the morning, pop up an Easy Up, put up my tables and racks and really be setting everything up on the spot for a 5-hour market, takedown, load out. And in the early days, I was making maybe $100. That would be awesome, you know? Or if I made $300, I'd be oh shit, I'm just, that was such a good day, you know? So
was it mostly jewelry then, or was there clothing too?
I think it was mostly clothing, and jewelry has always kind of been my thing that I like to do when I get really tired of sewing, but sewing is my primary thing. So, but jewelry is my my side. I have lots of little side hobbies, you know, even as a crafts person, I have lots of hobbies that lots of hobbies that I dabble in. Right.
Well, we should say we're here on Sites in the City for the Clarion Content with River Takada-Capel, who is a longtime pal of the Clarion Content and a friend, generally, but we love her story and her company and the evolution that we've watched happen. She has recently emancipated herself from the working for someone else world and is now full-time as an artist. So we want to capture some of that scary, exciting, fun journey and some of the how you got there. So you were just saying, you know, back in the day, $100 a day, $300 a day was kind of a lot.
Right, and when I say a day, that is mostly on a Saturday or Sunday on the weekend, which would be the culmination of my whole work week. I would have a 5-hour window to make money.
Right.
And be able to push through the next week to get to the next event, to do the whole thing over again, set up the tent.
And that doesn't count any of the production time.
Right. So I was sewing, when I first started my business, it was all about upcycle eco fashion. So I would go to thrift stores and yard sales and estate sales, and I would collect clothing, and then I would bring it home and I'd make all the dresses shorter, and I would make them all, I would cut off the giant shoulder pads and make them.
I remember that era, and you were studying things.
I was studying things. I was dip dyeing things. In the heyday of ombre, I ombre'd a many things.
In the heyday of ombre. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I do remember, because that was an era when we worked together a little bit.
So that was in the days of Gypsy Witch Collective, which was my friends Andrea Yakabuchi and Buffy Mask, and they had their businesses, Miss Goosey and Reciprocities, and Buffy made jewelry and Andrea did knits, and she also does and did vintage resale and upcycle and all that stuff. So we collaborated with you all.
And
Katie Childs, and she styled a photo shoot and introduced us to Emily Butler, who is an amazing model who has gone on to do so many photo shoots for me over the years, and walked in fashion shows and stuff. So
just a treasure of
a
person. It's nice to bring these kind of circles together.
Yes.
And I don't want people to think that you just appeared out of nowhere, able to run your own business and stuff. So you were telling me off camera a little bit about how your educational journey went and how effective that was for you. So you want to share some of that story?
So I, after taking a year off after high school and just working and traveling abroad, don't
let her undersell that year off either. She lived in Japan for that year.
I lived in a cafe. I worked in a cafe and lived in Tokyo for a year after high school. And then I went to SCAD for a year, and that was really amazing. My friends and I from there have a hashtag, thanks for the friends SCAD, where a lot of people end up dropping out of art schools because it's overwhelming and really expensive. That was the combination of why I dropped out.
Sure. And I think a lot of other people feel that or fear their failure when that happens.
Yeah.
And here we are standing on the edge of your like huge success of years of like going through small markets to now be able to work just for yourself at the end of this journey. So from SCAD it goes to...
It went to another year off, and then I went to, I found Haywood Community College through a friend's recommendation, and I went up there for the day with a friend, went for like a motorcycle ride through the mountains, and ended up in this like gorgeous little town where they have this beautiful campus. They have like a little fly fishing practice pond and like a mill house. Wow. It's very picturesque.
Yeah, idyllic.
So the school itself is known for its natural outdoors training. They have a really amazing horticulture program there. They have a beauty school hair certification program there.
None of these were what you did.
I didn't do any of these things, but it's like this amazing place where you can learn all of these things. So
right, from a technical angle, they teach a lot of
exactly.
like practical...
And what really appealed to me was that it was a 2-year intensive program. So even when I applied and attended SCAD, the idea of like having to live there for 4 years and like commit to that was like a huge step for me. I was like 19. That seemed like 4 years seemed like forever. So
my gosh,
to then just like be able to be like, okay, I have 2 years to get the most out of this really condensed space, like get an education, was a big motivator for me. And like I had no distractions up there in the mountains. I kind of left that about it. Like all the bars closed at 9.
Right.
And like it was 30 minutes away from Asheville, so I like didn't have the gas money to go like hang out there.
Yeah, as a creative, there's value in hermiting.
And the studio was open till midnight. So I would just stay in the studio until midnight, go home, sleep, wake up, come back to school. I made friends with people in my program, so I like had very few distractions, and that contrasting with my experience in Savannah, which was like so many things happening all the time, and like I want to go out and make exactly. I want to go to the beach, and I want to go on this thing, and just go on bike rides all the time. But like even in the mountains, you can't really bike a ton.
right.
So that was like
tricky, right? Well, that's pretty amazing. So let's pick it back up in Durham. Then you were telling us for a long time it was markets, it was festivals, it was traveling some to see shows. I was a big fish head back in the day myself, and I would buy everything from a beautiful tie-dyed. Well, I didn't have any kimonos, but from
I think
a beautiful
you could rock a kimono though. Yeah, totally.
I'd like to believe.
Honestly, anybody I feel like can really rock a kimono.
It's a personal sense of style. I don't know.
I feel like you could.
My visual for the kimono was Eli McDuffie. I don't know. Josh in the kimono, I'm not sure. Eli,
totally. A black one. Long,
maybe.
I think anybody could rock it.
I do remember that era of like, I would buy all kinds of stuff. Like, I'm old enough that I went to the Dead too, so there was plenty of that like market culture there.
Yeah.
And so to transition from you're on the road doing that for a while, you said, who was the big first market around here? You were giving somebody credit a minute ago before Kayla in the D-Town market.
Yeah, so Rock and Shop was a huge market that was in North Carolina. It was happening long before I could be on the caliber to sell at a market like that. So there's a few different kinds of markets. Most markets are you like take photos of your things and you apply through a jury process, and
really?
So you kind of have to like have.
I didn't realize they juried their way in like an art show that you have to be at a certain level.
Exactly, yeah. So the Rock and Shop was like the highest level of markets. So it took me a while to get to that point. But before that, I started, like I said, at farmers markets where I would just email and they would be like, show up, and
and you had an Etsy for ages.
I had an Etsy in the early days. Yeah.
And now it's all on.
Now I have an e-commerce site on my website, which is www.rivtalk.com.
RivTalk, yeah. It's all on RivTalk. And she's got tons of social media. We love her Instagram.
Yeah.
So you go through this era of traveling around all over the place, and then, I think a lot of people maybe get discouraged in that point in the process.
Yeah.
A lot of people with artistic talent, but especially if you have to be juried into the market.
Yeah, so...
I mean, what do you tell people? I mean, because now you teach classes and workshops and you help other people who are probably closer to that point on the process when you're much further along.
So when you're applying to markets, you simply need a 3-sentence description of what you and your business does. So if I make upcycled clothing and jewelry accessories, then that goes with my whole aesthetic, and the jurors are kind of looking for that. So in the early days, that was like a much simpler process. You would print out some photos and email, not even email, just send an envelope in the mail.
Right. You showed us your Polaroid collection.
Yeah, totally. So, and nowadays it's even easier. You go to a website and you upload your photos.
Right.
So that is a part of, the process of getting out there, but also it's really beneficial to have those guidelines to be I need a display, and I need my photos to look nice, and I need to have a clear idea of what I want to put out there and present to myself, and that really shows the jurors and the organizers of the markets that you're ready to show up with enough inventory to sell to people.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have a sense of your own aesthetic. You were saying you've worked with the same photographer, Eric Waters, for a really long time.
Yeah.
How?
And so many other local photographers. Yeah.
Right. Feel free to give shout outs to,
to
as many as you want. But how do you develop that, or how does that practice sort of evolve for you between the point where you're well, I have a home base and I can travel around to shows and I can sell enough stuff to eat and whatnot?
Right. So for me, it was a realization that traveling around and doing shows was really exhausting, and it actually was.
I mean, and you were young as hell, so it was exhausting even then.
Yeah, I was 22 up until the point that I think I did that, 22, 23. But yeah, and it was actually more expensive because since I moved so much, I was buying lots of food out. I was paying for a lot of gas, repairs on my car, it makes life harder when you're on the go all the time. So I got to the point where I was okay, I am going to change the structure of my business to better fit my needs personally, which is going to be more about creating a community that can support me, and going out and finding stores that I can sell things in rather than doing the direct customer interaction
you're every
with the
bit of the retail business.
Yeah.
Well, that is super awesome. We're going to cut part 1 here because I think there is a ton of lessons yet to come. I feel we're barely halfway through the story.
Yeah, you're just that was just the intro. I feel I talked about myself a little bit too much.
No worries. We want people to be able to both learn, about your journey, but also be able to kind of model on it. And I know that's part of your aesthetic, that you're working with workshops and kids. And
this worked for me. I think everybody is really on their own journey. So
sure.
But I,
Yeah. Well, we'll come back in part 2 and talk about the rest of your journey.